I still remember the cold air that night, the way it felt heavy against my skin, almost as if the sky itself knew a truth I hadn't yet discovered. I was standing in the ballroom, my silver dress glowing faintly under the lights, my eyes searching for him, my William. Everyone else was laughing, dancing, and clinking glasses, but my heart was racing because something felt wrong. He was smiling at me, yes, but there was a shadow in his eyes I had never seen before. And then, in the middle of the dance floor, he held me close for what I thought was our last dance together. His hand trembled slightly against mine, his lips whispering words that sounded like forever. "Our first dance was magic," he said softly, almost like a confession. "And our last goodbye," his voice cracked, but he covered it quickly with a forced smile, "will be harder than you think." I didn't understand then. I thought he was nervous, maybe sad because time was moving too fast. But later that night, when the goodbye finally came, it wasn't the kind of goodbye that comes with love. No, it was a lie. A goodbye filled with betrayal so sharp it cut through my chest like glass. I found out the truth in the cruelest way. He wasn't leaving me because of fate or sickness or something noble. He was leaving because there was someone else. Someone who had been dancing in the shadows of our love all along. That was the night I learned the difference between magic and illusion. And just when I thought I couldn't take another breath, he looked back one last time, his lips forming the words, "I love you," as if they still meant something. But I knew better. That night, my world collapsed, and my first dance turned into my biggest heartbreak. But before I tell you how everything ended, I must take you back to how it all began. Because love stories don't fall apart overnight. No, they are built brick by brick, moment by moment, until one wrong stone makes the whole wall tumble. And ours began with a dance that truly was magic. It was the spring of 1952, a time when music floated through the streets like perfume, and young girls like me dreamed of love that could last forever. I was just 19, full of hope, my hair tied neatly with a ribbon, my shoes polished though they had seen better days. My family didn't have much, but my spirit was rich with dreams. The night I met William, I wasn't supposed to be at that dance. My father had forbidden me, saying dances were a distraction from my nursing studies. But my best friend, Margaret, had convinced me otherwise. "One night won't ruin your life, and," she whispered, tugging at my sleeve, "what if you meet someone special?" I laughed then, not believing for a second that one night could change the course of my whole life. But she was right. Because the moment William stepped onto that wooden floor, everything around me disappeared. He was tall, with dark hair and eyes that seemed to carry secrets. He wasn't the most handsome man in the room, but he had something better. An energy, a charm, a way of looking at me like I was the only girl who mattered. The band began to play, the violin swelling into a melody that seemed too perfect for real life. He walked straight toward me, his confidence both frightening and exciting. And when he asked me to dance, my heart nearly jumped out of my chest. My hands trembled as he took them in his, but when our eyes met, something inside me calmed. "Our first dance was magic," he whispered later that night, and he was right. Every step, every turn, felt as though the universe itself had choreographed it just for us. People around us faded into shadows. It was just him and me, and I knew my life had changed forever. But little did I know, that same dance that filled me with so much hope would someday become the beginning of a love story that would also break me in ways I couldn't imagine. Life after that night was a whirlwind. He walked me home, his coat draped over my shoulders because the night had turned chilly. He told me about his dreams of becoming a lawyer, about his struggles growing up, about how he believed in love that could conquer anything. His words were poetry, and I, young and naive, believed every one of them. For months, we met under the stars, wrote letters when we couldn't see each other, and shared secrets no one else knew. He made me feel like the heroine of every romance novel I had ever hidden under my pillow. I told myself this was it. This was forever. But forever is a dangerous word. It blinds you. It makes you forget that even the sweetest songs can end on a bitter note. One evening, about a year into our courtship, he took me back to the same hall where we first danced. The music was softer this time, fewer people, but his eyes carried the same fire. He spun me around, and in that moment he promised me the world. "And," he said, "I will never leave you. No matter what happens, I'll always be here." And I believed him. Oh, how foolishly I believed him. Because promises are only as strong as the hearts that make them. And his heart, as I would later learn, was not mine alone. That was the first high of our love story. The beginning of a romance so pure it could make even the hardest heart believe in magic. But every high has a shadow, a low waiting in silence. And that low came one winter evening, when I found a letter tucked away in his jacket pocket. It wasn't addressed to me. The handwriting was delicate, the words too intimate. My heart sank as I read, each line cutting deeper than the last. It wasn't me she was writing to. It was William. And at that moment the walls of my perfect love story began to crack. The letter burned in my hands like fire. My chest tightened, my breath uneven, as I read the words again and again, hoping they would somehow change. My darling William, last night was unforgettable. I cannot wait until the next time we are together. I dream of the moment when you will finally be mine completely. Yours forever, Evelyn. Evelyn. That name carved itself into my heart like a scar. My hand shook as I folded the letter back, shoving it into his jacket pocket as if hiding it could erase what I had just seen. But the truth doesn't disappear simply because you look away. It waits. It festers. It grows into something bigger than you can control. That night I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every smile, every promise William had ever made. Was it all a lie? Was our first dance nothing but a performance? Tears slipped quietly down my cheeks, and I told myself I had to be wrong. Maybe there was another explanation. Maybe Evelyn was just a friend. Maybe. But deep down my soul whispered the truth I didn't want to hear. The next morning, I watched him as he walked up to our usual meeting spot near the oak tree by the river. His smile was the same, warm and disarming. His voice was tender, asking about my day. But I could no longer see him the same way. The words Evelyn had written haunted me. William, I asked, my voice quieter than usual, do you love me? He stopped, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. Then he smiled, that same steady smile. Of course I do. Why would you even ask such a thing? I wanted to believe him. I wanted to drown in the sweetness of his words. But something about his answer felt too quick, too polished, like a practiced lie. I stayed silent, nodding, forcing a smile, but inside my heart trembled like glass on the edge of breaking. Days turned into weeks, and I tried to convince myself I was wrong. I laughed when he made jokes, I held his hand when we walked, but a shadow followed me everywhere. It whispered Evelyn's name whenever he wasn't around. And then one cold evening, the shadow revealed itself in flesh and blood. I was walking home from work at the small hospital where I trained, the wind biting against my cheeks, when I heard laughter ahead. A familiar laughter. William's laughter. My heart lifted, until I saw who he was with. It was her. Evelyn. She was beautiful in a way that hurt. Golden hair that caught the lamplight. Lips curved into a smile so sure of itself. And her hand slipped comfortably into his as if it belonged there. I froze, my feet rooted to the ground. My breath caught in my throat. William turned slightly, his face lit up with joy. But not for me. Not for me. They didn't see me at first, but when they did, the laughter died instantly. Evelyn's smile faltered, and William's eyes widened with something that looked like guilt. And he began stepping toward me. But I stepped back. My whole body trembled, my chest tight as if the world had just crumbled beneath my feet. I could hear my pulse louder than his voice, louder than the wind, louder than everything else. Don't, I whispered. My voice cracked. Don't say anything. He reached out his hand, but I turned and ran. That was the first time in my life I understood what betrayal felt like. It wasn't just pain, it was a tearing apart of everything I thought was real. I spent that night curled up on my bed, clutching the ribbon he once tied around my wrist, wondering how a love that began with magic could so quickly turn into a lie. But that was not the end. No, betrayal has many layers. What I saw that night was only the beginning of the storm. Because a week later, William came to my house, his eyes red as though he hadn't slept. He begged me to listen, to give him a chance to explain. And it's not what you think, he pleaded. Evelyn means nothing to me. I made a mistake. You are the one I love. His words stabbed me. You are the one I love. How could he say that with another woman's laughter still echoing in my memory? But love makes fools of us all. Against my better judgment, I let him in. I listened. I cried. And when he held me close, whispering promises, I wanted to believe him so badly that I almost did. Almost. Because just as I was beginning to forgive him, fate dropped another blow into my lap. Something so shocking it made my knees buckle. That very night, after William left, I heard a knock on my window. When I opened it, Evelyn herself stood there, her face pale but determined. And the words she spoke next nearly tore my world apart. The knock on my window still echoes in my memory. It was late, far too late for visitors, and my heart almost jumped out of my chest when I saw her face through the glass. Evelyn. Her golden hair looked dull under the moonlight, her lips tight, her eyes filled not with arrogance this time but something closer to desperation. I wanted to slam the window shut, to pretend I hadn't seen her, but curiosity, and pain, held my hand frozen on the latch. Slowly, I pushed the window open, the cold night air rushing into my room. "What are you doing here?" I whispered sharply, my voice trembling with both anger and fear. She glanced over her shoulder, as if someone had followed her, then leaned closer. "And we need to talk." I laughed bitterly. "Talk? After what I saw? After what you've done?" Her eyes glistened. "You think you know everything, but you don't. William hasn't told you the truth." My chest tightened. The truth. That word again. The one that had been haunting me ever since I found her letter. I didn't want to hear it, but part of me needed to. "What truth?" I asked, my voice barely audible. She took a deep breath, her hands gripping the window frame. "William and we've been seeing each other for months. Longer than you realize. He promised me things and he told me I was the one." My knees weakened. I gripped the edge of my desk just to stay standing. No, that's not true. He loves me. He told me. He tells us both the same things," she cut in, her voice breaking. "Do you understand? He's playing us and he's not who you think he is." Tears stung my eyes, but I fought them back. "You're lying. You're jealous. You're just trying to ruin what we have." Her face hardened. "If you don't believe me, then meet me tomorrow night at the old train station. 9 o'clock. I'll show you proof. After that, you can decide if you still want to believe his pretty lies." And before I could respond, she turned and disappeared into the night, her footsteps fading into silence. I collapsed onto my bed, my heart pounding like a drum. Proof? What proof could she possibly have? I wanted to dismiss her words as spiteful poison, but deep down, a seed of doubt had been planted, and it grew with every tick of the clock. The next day dragged on endlessly. William visited me in the afternoon, his smile warm, his hands gentle as he brushed my hair back. He spoke of the future, of dreams we would share, and for a moment, I almost let myself sink back into the comfort of his voice. But every time he said forever, I heard Evelyn's voice in the back of my mind whispering he promised me the same thing. By the time evening fell, my mind was at war with itself. Part of me wanted to trust him, to hold on to the magic of our first dance. The other part needed answers, no matter how painful they might be. At 9 o'clock, I found myself standing at the old train station. The place was deserted, the wooden boards creaking under my shoes, the rusted tracks stretching into the dark. The air smelled of damp iron and forgotten dreams. Evelyn was already there, her figure silhouetted against the flickering lantern she carried. When she saw me, she gave a small, sad smile. "I didn't think you'd come." "Just show me," I said, my voice firmer than I felt. She reached into her bag and pulled out a bundle of letters. My stomach turned as she handed them to me. My name wasn't on any of them. Each envelope was addressed to her, in William's handwriting. With trembling fingers, I opened one. "My dearest Evelyn, being with you last night reminded me why I can't stay away. I know I'm with Anne, but my heart is yours. One day soon, I'll find the courage to end things with her so we can finally be free together." My vision blurred. The words stabbed deeper than any knife could. Every letter I opened was worse than the last. His words of devotion, his plans for a future with her. Evelyn's voice was soft. "I didn't come to hurt you, Anne. I came because I was just as blind as you once. I believed every word. But if he can lie to me, and he can lie to you, then who is William really?" I couldn't breathe. My world spun. The train tracks beneath me felt like they were tilting, ready to swallow me whole. I stumbled back, clutching the letters to my chest, tears streaming down my face. I wanted to scream, to curse his name, but all I could do was whisper, "Why?" Evelyn reached out to steady me, but I pulled away. "Don't touch me. Don't." Before I could finish, footsteps echoed from the darkness. Heavy, deliberate. Both of us froze. And then out of the shadows, William stepped forward, his eyes cold, his jaw set. "I told you not to come here," he said, his voice low and dangerous. The sound of his voice froze me to the core. William, standing just a few feet away, half in shadow, half in the dim glow of Evelyn's lantern. His tall frame seemed larger than life, his eyes sharp and unreadable. For the first time since I'd met him, I wasn't sure if I knew the man before me at all. Evelyn stiffened, clutching the lantern tighter. "You shouldn't be here," she said quickly, though her voice trembled. William's lips curved into a tight smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Funny. I could say the same about you." My knees felt weak. My hands gripped the bundle of letters so tightly the paper crumpled under my fingers. "William," my voice cracked. "Tell me this isn't true. Tell me you didn't write these." His gaze flicked to the letters, then back to me. For a moment, something flickered in his eyes. Fear perhaps, or regret, but it vanished as quickly as it came. "And," he said softly, stepping closer, his tone suddenly gentle, "I don't know what Evelyn told you, but she's lying. She's been jealous of us from the start. She'll do anything to tear us apart." "Lying?" Evelyn snapped, her voice echoing in the empty station. She threw her own handful of letters onto the ground, the pages scattering across the wooden boards. "You wrote these, William. I didn't forge your handwriting. I didn't invent your words. You told me you loved me. You told me you'd leave her." The cold air tightened around us. I looked from her face to his, my heart splitting in two. One of them was lying. But which one? "And listen to me," William said again, his hand reaching for mine. "You know me. You've danced with me, dreamed with me. Do you really believe I would betray you like this?" I wanted to scream yes. I wanted to throw the letters in his face and walk away. But my heart, oh my foolish heart, still longed to believe him. I had loved him too deeply, too completely, to let go so easily. "Then explain," I whispered, my tears blinding me. "Explain why these letters exist. Explain why I saw you laughing with her. Explain everything." For a moment he said nothing. Then slowly his expression softened, and he let out a weary sigh. "All right. I'll tell you the truth." My breath caught. He ran a hand through his dark hair, his voice calm, measured, as if he were weaving the words carefully. "Yes, I knew Evelyn. Yes, I wrote to her. But it wasn't what you think. It was before you and I became serious. I was confused, and young, stupid. But once I met you, everything changed. You're the one I chose. You're the one I want." His words fell like honey, soothing yet sticky, impossible to ignore. For a heartbeat, I almost believed him. Almost. Evelyn, however, stepped forward, her face pale with fury. "Stop lying, William. You told me just last week that you loved me. You kissed me. Or did you forget that too?" My chest tightened, my eyes searching William's face for the truth. He didn't flinch. Instead, he gave a small laugh, shaking his head as though he pitied her. "Delusions," he muttered. "She's obsessed and she won't let me go. Don't you see? She wants to destroy what we have because she can't stand that I chose you." I looked at Evelyn. Her face was a mixture of rage and despair. "Don't believe him," she whispered to me. "Please. You're smarter than that. You know what he's doing." The train station was silent except for the rustle of the scattered letters under the night wind. My hands shook as I held them. My heart was a battlefield. One half pulled by his smooth words, the other by the raw pain in Evelyn's voice. Finally, I spoke, though my voice cracked like breaking glass. "If I'm truly the one you love, William, then prove it. Right here. Right now." His jaw tightened. "Prove it. How?" "Choose," I whispered. My tears fell freely now. "Tell her it's over. Tell me the truth." The lantern light flickered, casting shadows across his face. For a moment, he was silent, and the world seemed to hold its breath. Then slowly he reached for my hand again. You, he said firmly. I choose you, Anne. I love you. Evelyn let out a sharp gasp, her face twisting with pain. Liar, she cried, her voice breaking. You'll regret this. And with that, she turned and ran into the night, her sobs echoing as her figure disappeared down the tracks. My heart ached watching her go, but William pulled me close, his arms wrapping around me. His voice was low, soothing. Don't listen to her, my love. She's gone now. Just us. Just us. For a moment I let myself sink into his warmth, my tears soaking his shirt. Maybe he was telling the truth. Maybe Evelyn had twisted everything. Maybe love really could survive this storm. But as he held me, my eyes fell on one of the letters Evelyn had dropped. The lantern's glow illuminated the page, and my blood ran cold. It wasn't just a love letter. It was dated 2 days ago. My hands trembled as I bent down and picked up the letter. The paper was damp from the night air, the ink smudged in places, but the date at the top was unmistakable. 2 days ago. Not last year. Not last month. Not before we had met. Just 2 days ago. The words blurred as tears filled my eyes. I forced myself to read anyway. My darling Evelyn, every moment with you feels like a stolen treasure. I wish I could stop time whenever we are together. And is sweet, yes, but she doesn't understand me the way you do. One day soon, I will find the courage to leave her for good. Until then, let's hold on to our secret moments. Yours forever, William. My stomach turned. My hands shook so violently that the letter nearly slipped through my fingers. I felt like the ground beneath me had opened up, like I was standing on the edge of something dark and bottomless. Slowly, I looked up at him. William. The man who had whispered forever into my ear. The man who had promised me love. The man I thought I knew. He was still holding me, his arms around my waist, his face pressed close to mine. When he saw the letter in my hand, his body stiffened. And, he said quickly, his voice urgent, almost panicked. Don't read that. It's not what it looks like. Not what it looks like? My voice cracked, my tears spilling freely. I shoved the letter against his chest. How many more lies do you expect me to believe? This was written 2 days ago, William. 2 days ago you told me I was the only one. 2 days ago you swore Evelyn was lying. His mouth opened then closed. For the first time his confidence faltered. He looked down at the letter, his jaw tightening, his eyes flickering with something I had never seen before, fear. I didn't mean it, he stammered. You have to understand. She pressures me and she makes me write these things. She threatens me. I didn't want to hurt you. The desperation in his voice almost broke me. Almost. But then Evelyn's cry echoed in my memory, her voice trembling as she shouted, You kissed me last week. The words, the letters, the laughter I had seen with my own eyes, they all pieced together like shards of glass cutting into my chest. No, I whispered, shaking my head. You wanted both of us. You wanted her and me. You've been playing us like fools. His eyes darkened. For a moment, the gentle William the first had loved was gone. In his place stood someone else, someone colder, harder. His grip on my arms tightened, just enough to make me flinch. And, he said, his voice low and sharp, Don't do this. Don't throw everything away because of one mistake. One mistake. I shouted, pulling back. How many mistakes, William? 1, 2, 100? How many lies does it take before the truth finally matters? The empty train station echoed with my voice. My hands were shaking, my chest heaving, but I had never felt stronger in my life. For the first time, I wasn't begging him for answers. I wasn't clinging to the magic of our first dance. I was demanding the truth. And that's when his expression changed again. His face softened, his voice trembling now. And please. I can't lose you. I love you. I'll end it with her. Tonight. I'll prove it to you. Something inside me wanted desperately to believe him again. But then I remembered the date. The words. The kiss, Evelyn claimed. And suddenly, the thought of him whispering the same sweet lies to her made my skin crawl. I pulled away from him. My voice barely a whisper. I can't do this anymore. For a moment, silence. Then, to my horror, his eyes hardened again. You don't mean that, he said, his voice sharp. You can't leave me, and you're mine. The way he said it sent chills through me. Not loving. Not gentle. Possessive. Dangerous. I'm not yours, I said, my voice trembling but firm. Not anymore. I turned to walk away, clutching the letter to my chest like a shield. But before I could take more than 2 steps, his hand shot out and grabbed my wrist, yanking me back with surprising force. Don't you dare walk away from me, he hissed. The lantern flickered violently in the cold wind, casting twisted shadows across his face. His grip tightened, his eyes burning with something wild. For the first time, I was afraid, not of losing him, but of what he might do. And then, from behind us, a voice cut through the darkness. Let her go, William. Both of us froze. Evelyn stood at the edge of the platform, her chest heaving, her fists clenched. She hadn't run far after all. Her eyes were blazing, not with jealousy this time, but with defiance. If you love me, she said, her voice strong despite her trembling frame, then prove it. But if you don't, let her go. Right now. The wind howled through the station. William's grip on my wrist tightened even more, his jaw locked, his chest rising and falling with fury. And in that moment I realized his love wasn't a gift. It was a trap. The air in the train station grew so thick it felt like it might choke me. William's hand clamped around my wrist, his fingers digging into my skin. His eyes darted between me and Evelyn, his chest rising and falling as though he were trapped in a storm of his own making. Let her go, Evelyn repeated, her voice steady though her hands trembled at her sides. You can't keep us both. You can't keep her like this. For a long moment, William said nothing. His grip on me tightened, as though he was afraid I would vanish if he let go. His jaw clenched, his eyes blazing with something I had never seen in him before. Finally he spoke, his voice low and dangerous. You don't understand. Neither of you understand. I can't lose Anne. She belongs with me. Belongs. I gasped, my voice shaking with fear. I'm not a thing you can own, William. I'm not yours. His eyes flickered, a flash of something wounded, like my words had struck deeper than any blade. For just a second, he looked like the William the first had fallen in love with, the boy who whispered magic into my ears on the dance floor. But then his expression hardened again. You don't mean that, he hissed. You're just angry. You'll forgive me. You always do. Not this time, I whispered. The silence that followed was broken only by the wind rattling the boards of the platform. Evelyn stepped forward, her lantern casting her shadow across his face. If you love her, let her go, she said firmly. If you love me, prove it now. But stop playing this sick game. William's eyes narrowed. You don't give me ultimatums. For the first time since I'd met him, I saw the true William. Not the charming man who had swept me off my feet, but the man behind the mask. A man who needed control. A man who feared losing it. William, I whispered, my voice cracking. Please. You're scaring me. That broke something in him. His grip loosened slightly, his face twisting with pain. I never wanted to scare you. His voice faltered. I can't lose you, Anne. You're everything. Without you, I'm nothing. I almost pitied him then. Almost. But pity couldn't erase betrayal. Pity couldn't erase the letters, the lies, the laughter I had seen with Evelyn. You already lost me, I said, tears streaking my face. For a heartbeat, his body went still. Then suddenly, violently, he released my wrist and turned away. His hands pressed to his face. His shoulders shook, but I couldn't tell if it was from rage or despair. Evelyn rushed to my side, steadying me as I staggered back. Her eyes searched mine, silently asking if I was all right. I nodded weakly, though my wrist throbbed and my heart pounded. Then William's voice cut through the night again, sharper than before. If I can't have you, and he turned, his face pale, his eyes dark, then no one will. The words sent ice through my veins. Evelyn stiffened beside me, her hand tightening around mine. William, don't, she warned, her voice trembling now. Don't you dare. But he was already moving, his steps slow, deliberate, his eyes locked on me as though I were prey. The train station seemed to close in around us, the shadows stretching taller, the wind howling louder. My breath quickened, my mind screaming for me to run, but my body was frozen. William, please, I begged, my voice barely a whisper. Don't do this. He smiled then, a twisted, broken smile. You said our first dance was magic, and you can't deny that. And if this is our last goodbye, it won't be a lie. My blood ran cold, because just as the words left his lips, a faint rumble shook the wooden boards beneath our feet. In the distance, the whistle of an approaching train echoed through the night, and William stepped closer to the edge of the platform. His eyes locked on me with a look I'll never forget. The train's whistle pierced the night, long and mournful, like the cry of some great beast. The wooden boards beneath our feet trembled as the distant rumble grew louder. The air carried the metallic scent of iron and smoke. William stood only a few feet from the edge, his shoes balanced dangerously close to the tracks. His eyes glistened under the lantern's glow, a mixture of desperation and madness. William! I cried, my voice cracking. Step back. Please, you're too close. He didn't move. Instead, he tilted his head, his lips curving into a strange smile. Do you hear it, Anne? That sound? It's like fate calling us. If I can't have you in life, maybe I'll have you in death. My blood froze. Don't say that, I begged, tears stinging my eyes. Don't you dare say that. Beside me, Evelyn's voice rang out, strong but trembling. William, stop this madness. You're scaring her. You're scaring me. But William only laughed softly, a hollow sound. Scared? You should be. I've given everything, my heart, my dreams, my soul. And what did I get? Doubt. Accusations. Betrayal. His eyes locked on Evelyn. And you? You couldn't leave well enough alone, could you? You had to ruin everything. Evelyn lifted her chin, defiant even as her hands shook. No, William. You ruined everything when you couldn't tell the truth. You broke us both. For a moment, his face softened, as though her words cut him. But then the rumble of the train grew louder, the ground shaking violently now. His expression hardened again. He turned back to me. And, do you remember? Our first dance? The way you looked at me like nothing else in the world existed. My lips trembled. Yes, I remember. His smile widened, twisted and sad. That was magic. Pure magic. I'll never feel that again. Not with anyone. The train whistle screamed again, louder, closer. I could see the faint glow of its headlight cutting through the darkness. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst from my chest. William, I pleaded, stepping forward, though Evelyn's hand tried to hold me back. You don't have to do this. We can walk away. All of us. Right now. Please. His eyes flickered with something almost human again. Hope, regret, love, before the madness swallowed it. No, he whispered. If this is goodbye, let it be a goodbye no one forgets. Then, before I could move, before Evelyn could stop him, William grabbed my other wrist with sudden force and yanked me toward the edge of the platform. I screamed, stumbling forward, the train's light blazing closer, its roar deafening. Evelyn lunged, clutching at my arm, pulling with all her strength. For a terrifying second, I was caught between them. William dragging me toward the tracks, Evelyn pulling me back toward safety. My body strained, my arms burning, my heart pounding in terror. The train thundered nearer, its monstrous shadow swallowing the station whole. And in that split second of chaos I realized someone was going to fall. The roar of the train drowned out my scream. The platform shook violently as the monstrous engine bore down on us, its blinding headlight flooding everything in white. William's fingers dug into my wrist, his face twisted with madness. Evelyn's arms wrapped around my waist, her voice breaking as she shouted, "Hold on, and don't you let go." I was caught in a tug-of-war between life and death. My body swayed toward the tracks, the rushing wind pulling at my hair and clothes, the metallic scream of the brakes sparking against the rails. "William, stop!" cried, choking on fear. "You'll kill us all." But his grip only tightened, his eyes wild. "If I can't have you, and I'd rather die with you than live without you." "No!" Evelyn screamed. With a strength I didn't know she had, she pulled me backward with all her might. My body snapped away from William's grasp, and I tumbled into her arms, collapsing against the wooden boards of the platform. The train thundered past, so close that the rush of wind slammed into us, nearly knocking us down. My heart raced in my chest, each beat echoing in my ears like gunfire. I gasped for air, clutching Evelyn, tears blurring my vision. Thank you, oh God, thank you. But when my vision cleared, I saw him. William stood frozen at the edge, his chest heaving, his face pale. The train's light faded into the distance, leaving only the echo of its roar. His hand was still stretched out, as though he couldn't believe I was no longer in it. He turned slowly toward me, his eyes hollow, his voice a whisper carried by the night air. You chose her. I wanted to speak, to explain, to tell him I hadn't chosen anyone but my own life. But the words caught in my throat. Evelyn stood protectively in front of me, her arm stretched back to keep me close. Yes, she said firmly. She chose freedom. She chose herself. And you, William, you need help. This obsession will destroy you. For the first time, William looked broken, like a child who had lost his way. His knees buckled, and he sank onto the platform, his hands covering his face. His shoulders shook, though I couldn't tell if it was from anger or despair. My heart ached at the sight. Despite everything, despite the fear, despite the betrayal, a part of me remembered the boy I had loved, the boy who had once made me believe in magic. But then slowly he lowered his hands. And when he looked up at us, the softness was gone. His eyes were sharp, dark, dangerous. You think this is over? He said, his voice low, steady, chilling. You think you can walk away and leave me broken? He stood, his posture tall, his presence looming. No. You owe me, Anne. You owe me your love, your life, everything we shared. And if you think you can just say goodbye, his lips curled into a bitter smile. Then that goodbye will be a lie. Evelyn stepped forward, shielding me with her body. Leave us alone, William. Or I swear. But she never finished her sentence. Because William reached into his coat and pulled something out. The faint glow of the lantern revealed it, gleaming sharp and cold. A knife. I gasped, stumbling back. Evelyn's arm shot out, her body tensing like a shield in front of me. William's smile widened, twisted with pain and fury. If love won't keep you, and then fear will. The night air turned to ice around us. And I realized the real danger had only just begun. The night ended in a way I never imagined. The knife glistened in William's hand. His eyes locked on me with a look I will never forget. Evelyn stood between us, her voice trembling but strong. You won't hurt her. Not while I'm here. For a moment it felt like the world had stopped. The platform was silent except for the echo of the train that had already passed. My heart pounded, my breath shallow, as William's hand shook. William, I whispered, stepping forward despite my fear. Do you remember our first dance? How you held me like I was the only person in the world. That was real. That was magic. But this is not love. This is pain. And it's killing us both. His eyes softened just for a second. The boy I once loved flickered inside him, broken and lost. His grip on the knife wavered. But then he shook his head, his voice cracking. If that was magic, then why does it hurt so much? Tears ran down my cheeks. Because you turned our goodbye into a lie. You made promises you never meant to keep. Love doesn't chain people, it frees them. Evelyn slowly reached for the knife, her hand steady, her eyes never leaving his. After a long, breathless moment, William's arm dropped. The knife clattered to the floor. His shoulders sagged, his body trembling, as though all the fight had drained out of him. He fell to his knees and wept. It wasn't the angry cry of a man. It was the broken sob of a boy who had lost himself. That was the last time I saw him. By morning he was gone from our lives, swallowed by his own choices, leaving behind only memories of what could have been. I never danced with him again. And yet, sometimes in the quiet I still remember that first dance, how magical it felt, how hopeful. But now I also remember the last goodbye, how it was built on lies, and how close it came to ending everything. Life taught me a hard lesson that night. Love without truth is only a shadow. No matter how magical it begins, if it turns into control, jealousy, or lies, it will only lead to heartbreak. So I share this story not to sadden you, but to remind you, choose love that sets you free, not love that traps you. Because the greatest dance is not the first one or the last one, but the one where you are truly seen, truly safe, and truly loved.